For the record, Robert Cronenberg. To be clear, the site stays IM, which is industrial moderate, for as proposed. The floating zone designation that we have on the site would require a number of properties to consolidate and come in and apply for a floating zone application through the county council. It would have to go through the whole process. The idea of the floating zone, as Aaron mentioned, was to provide flexibility, but to look for a long-term perspective on this that said this is what, we do see, you have a major infrastructure piece coming through here with the Purple Line. And this offers some opportunities along Brookville Road, not only for the sites themselves, but improvements for Brookville Road, which we also felt was very important as part of the plan.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The problem is that this mentality that every single Purple Line station has to have a CR zoning is, to me, it's false. Like, we shouldn't go there. This is an area that has been established as an industrial zone for years. These are businesses that have been there for 10, 20 years. These are prosperous businesses. So the best way that I think we should go about this is to make sure that they feel that they can stay there for a long time, and they don't have this idea that tomorrow somebody can ask them to move. So I do think we should keep the industrial zoning here.
Yeah,
so.
I'm in the. Okay.
I can't not have everybody applauding or booing. It's not appropriate. It's really not. Okay? If you want to come up and talk about the property, you can do that. I will bend over backwards to hear you out. But it's not okay. Thank you.
I'm in agreement with Natalie. I think the Purple Line is going through this property somewhat by accident, because that's where the tracks are. We've had a lot of pushback on areas we've tried to increase density and other things in areas that are really in demand for redevelopment, such as Bethesda and Westport. We don't have that kind of demand here. I think to create another hubbub over something that is not going to happen, the Purple Line isn't here yet. I think the next time we do a master plan 20 years from now, if the demand is there, we can address it. But to get everybody up in arms over something that's really satisfactory the way it is, I don't think is worth the energy that we're putting into it, or to aggravate the council with all the people that are going to be upset about it. So, and I feel somewhat the same way about some of the sites that are in the residential neighborhood. To increase the density for potential multifamily housing when everybody around them is single family and small lots, to me, is just rubbing salt in the wound. So if you enjoy fighting with everybody in the neighborhood and the county council, I guess we can do stuff like this, but I really don't think it's necessary at all. I feel differently about the properties that are there that are already developed and want to potentially renew or redevelop. It makes some sense. But to have those areas that are already working fine, it's a very strong industrial area, and just because there's a station there, I think the station is going to deliver workers potentially to these businesses and to these type of uses, rather than having residential there that's going somewhere else. So I think sometimes in our county we have to accept the fact that we have an existing neighborhood that's working satisfactory, and just because we put a track through it does not mean that we have to change everything. So I'm with Natalie that this particular strip, and we'll get to some others, ought to be just left alone. Just leave it the way it is, just like you did the other ones. And quite frankly, the county themselves had a similar position with their property. They basically said, we don't want a floating zone. We want to be what we are. We're going to plan it for industrial. We're going to have parking for our employees. We're going to keep maintaining vehicles. And I think these businesses can do the same. So I just leave it alone.
I'm in agreement with Norman and Natalie, but also for another reason. In a strange way, this district actually unifies the community. I mean, Little'sville has been segregated in a lot of ways as far as losing identity, and I love what the staff is doing about trying to renew the identity, signage and things, wayfinding and things that will help bring it. But it seems like this has been a focal point and a draw for the community, almost like people create a people's choice path through an area of land, and then everyone uses it. So there just isn't enough argument for me to say upset the apple cart with these.
Oh, if you remember when we were on the tour, one of the occupants there got on the bus with us, and she talked about the fact that she had moved there from another property because it gave her greater, it was much more affordable. And she also mentioned the fact that she would have expanded because there was a piece that was next to her, but she had some concerns because of the uncertainty with the sector plan, and she wasn't able to do that. And that really stuck with me because I think we do want to maintain our small businesses wherever we have the opportunity. So I'll be supportive of the comments of the three other colleagues.
Well, I think this is going to be 4-1, but I feel I need to, not so much to explain myself, but to say I really think that it's short-sighted to not provide an opportunity for floating zone on this property. I think that it's not about the idea that every transit stop has to be intensively redeveloped. It's about the fact that this neighborhood will continue to be shortchanged if there is no significant redevelopment opportunity on Brookville Road. The purple line is not the reason to do it. The purple line is the opportunity that could, over the next, it won't happen tomorrow or in necessarily the next 5 years, but over the next 10 or 15 or 20 years, creates the opportunity to change the dynamic of the market along this strip of roadway. As I drive, or in some cases ride my bike or walk along Brookville Road, I'm struck that it is an example of a place that, as a product of many of the land use decisions that have been made over the decades, has been effectively left out, and that it's not a high-quality street that is inviting or safe for pedestrian life, for the community, that detracts from the livability of the neighborhood. It's basically a street that's designed in a way that invites high-speed truck traffic to go barreling through the neighborhood. So, I should say one of the folks in this neighborhood who I like very much and have a lot of respect for, who I'm not going to call out by name, but she sent me a letter thanking me for coming to the National Night Out in your neighborhood. And in that, she included a little slip of paper that basically said, I'm going to paraphrase, be honest, tell us the truth. And I don't think that my role is to tell you what you want to hear. It's to try to explain, to try to come to what I believe is my honest and independent judgment about, as somebody who cares about your community, that I think that it's a big mistake to not provide the opportunity for redevelopment along Brookville, even though I understand the desire not to displace the small businesses that exist there now, not to limit the opportunity for industrial uses to remain in this neighborhood. And to me, I think really the floating zone is the least that we could do to provide at least the opportunity over the medium term to reorient this street in particular and the neighborhood in general, not in order to transform it into Manhattan or Bethesda or some urban place, but to create a place that supports a higher quality of life for everybody, and also, not incidentally, can create a base of customers for some of these businesses that exist there today, like the bicycle shop, like El Norteño, like some of the businesses that have some light manufacturing or maker component in the back with sort of a retail presence, or they need visibility in the front. And I don't think it's a good use of land to take a property that is immediately adjacent to a very high quality transit stop and act as though that changes nothing. And I haven't said anything at all now about the public investment that has been made in the Purple Line or the public interest in making sure that the opportunity for more people to live in places that are accessible to transit, and also to have access to the retail amenities and other uses that can be facilitated by this enormous transit investment that is being made not only at great expense, but at tremendous cost in terms of the struggle to get the purple line approved. So I'm going to lose 4-1, but I would just ask that everybody here think between now and the time that it gets to the county council, is this really what you want? Is this really a good idea? And I know there will be some who say, yeah, that's what I want. I'm just asking you to think again about what will happen in 10 or 15 or 20 years if Brookville Road looks the same way it does today. I submit to you that some of your successors will come to some of our successors and point to this as an example of how this neighborhood has continued to be the victim of disinvestment. And no one will remember that the neighborhood said, no, we want it to stay just like it is. This will be an example of how Littonsville has lost out again. And I'm sorry to put it in such strong terms, but I really believe that it is, as I said, quite short-sighted to look at this in terms of what tenants are there today over the next few years. And I think that a floating zone would create the opportunity, perhaps in a decade, to revisit this question in light of not only what happens to the Purple Line, but the general evolution of the neighborhood, of Silver Spring, of Chevy Chase, the area inside the Beltway, and to be able to go through another public process without having to go through a full-blown master plan amendment in order to take account of those changes. So I'll quit there.
Look, I honestly don't want to fight with you. You say a whole lot of stuff that I should answer, but the only thing I'm going to tell you is perspective, the way you see things and the way I see things, I guess based on our background, are totally different. This community hasn't been shortchanged. And your definition of quality of life is, I can see, is very different than mine. And the people that are there, the businesses that are there are striving. The people who are there are already there and they're making it happen. It's a community that I think everybody who lives there feels very proud of. So the decision that I'm making today is based on facts and how I feel, not based on somebody who's trying to move me or ask me to vote in a certain way. I'm doing it based on principle, not based on what people want me to say. It's a big difference. So I stand by my decision, and I said it again. Industrial zonings is something that we should be preserving and something that we should all be working together to make it better, not destroying them. Big difference. So.
I was just going to say, I respect and understand, having been on the board 8 years now, exactly where the chair is coming from, in that we can't really require the industrial the way it is now to make any of the changes, to add sidewalks, to do anything that would naturally come with redevelopment. And I understand why you're saying what you're saying, and conceptually I agree with you too, but from what I've heard from the community and seeing how it functions, the fear of losing that, which is currently functioning as a go-to place, a unifying element, something that they desire to preserve, I would not be opposed to including something in the master plan about suggesting that should the Purple Line, when it comes, require an opening up for a review, like to do one of the abbreviated master plan amendments, and then the community could participate, that if at that time, be it 5 years or 10 years, they start to experience, the desire for upgrades there, that we'd already have it on the council's radar, that it should be revisited. And at least there would be something of a pitch in it so that it wouldn't be 20 years and people regretting that they can't do anything more there.
Well, we do specify that this floating zone could only be applied for after the Purple Line is constructed.
Yeah, but it's sort of, do it sort of preliminarily saying yes is what's causing all the fear. And for example, I don't know, because I haven't talked to each of the individual business owners, only the one or two that were on our tour, but if they have the uncertainty that something could change and they're going to get priced out, that may actually cause them to start searching for a new place now so that they can have the security they currently have. So I don't think it's worth doing that if we could indicate the reason that we would have to use the floating zone and to revisit it at the time the Purple Line is, really operational.
Well, we'd certainly look for some guidance on language that you would like to add for this particular station area. So.
I don't want to invite, in my opinion, I don't want to invite another look at this in the life of this master plan. My vote is to leave it the way it is, period. There's a lot of industrial there. It's working. The line happens to be going through there. They put a station there. It's not going to It's probably going to be 6 years before the line's even in, if we're lucky.
So you think it would just
So
naturally
I
push
think we
towards
just-
that?
If there's demand, I'm a big supply and demand guy, so if there's demand for this, the next time the master plan comes around, we'll see redevelopment in the area for a lot of things we will be approving, and then we can address it. But for this go-round, prior to the Purple Line even being under construction, I think it's just creating more trouble than it's worth. And I think we met the same problem in Westbard. We took areas on River Road that were not originally requested for rezoning. It was really just the area on the other side of Westbard Avenue, and we assigned densities and things to them and heights that we thought would be progressive. The reality is it just created a big firestorm in the neighborhood over an area that we knew was not going to happen anyway. So I see this similar situation. It's not worth doing this. I understand that there is some concern about pedestrian access to some of the businesses and Fort Detrick, and I think that can be addressed in a different way than rezoning properties. And if the county feels so strongly that this Purple Line station, as Casey believes is going to be important, then we should spend some money to make it attractive to get to. So I just leave it the way it is, just like you did the other ones.
Well, I've said my piece. I just observed that, a floating zone, I think, was an attempt to try to accommodate this idea that eventually, maybe something could change, even if not right now. And, if you don't like that proposal, then I think what you're left with is 20 years from now, maybe there'll be another master plan.